I am the experiment.
You can write your own story.
Just not stop trying and don't give into the fear.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here, Matt. We've been talking about this for a while.
Thank you for having me. I'm humbled to be here and excited to get into it with you.
Yeah, I'm really. I got pretty inspired by you through. We're both fathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And watching you become a father was, in the moments before that, and some of the conversations it struck a chord with me, and I was like, I really want to capture this, and what this guy's going through and how he's seeing things, because I think if we consider that millions of people are going to be listening to this, no stress,
Sure, yeah.
that there's a lot of fathers out there, and I think you have insight through being a student, like you said, around that could be really, really amazing to capture and really insightful. So that was the motivation to get you on here. We've never done anything like this before.
Okay.
But before we begin, I'm going to give a quick little read of your bio here. This is kind of always something we do. So
and sorry to interrupt. I will say, appreciate you having me on. Thank you, and truly humbled to be here. And when you asked me originally, I was quite hesitant, because of what I shared earlier. Not active online, don't have any presence, and consider myself the eternal student, like I mentioned. And so when you asked me, hey, would you consider coming on? I thought, well, who am I to share any of this stuff, right? But again, if it's to your point, if it's helpful for any of the men or women out there that are on the journey, then I'm humble messenger, so to speak, at best. So yeah, appreciate you having me, and looking forward to getting into it.
I think probably a big part of what it drew me to you or attracted me to having you on here is the very things that you just mentioned. There's a saying that one of my teachers told me a long time ago. They said, if you see a Buddha by the road, kill it, because a Buddha would be by the river. And I think there's a lot of false people out there that are proclaiming like spirituality or awareness. And these are the folks that are like pointing at themselves saying, look at me. Yeah. And in all reality, the Buddha would be by the river. Right. Or in your case, by the beach. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
All right. So let's, so I'll respect that as we go through this.
Thank you.
In the space that you're coming from. So bio here real quick. Today's guest is Matt Williams, a former Wall Street pro turned solar entrepreneur and holistic dad. He spent years exploring meditation, embodied masculinity, and what it means to fully show up for life. Recently, he and his wife welcomed a baby at home above the beach, sparking reflections on how to fully support and show up for the sacred experience of those around him. In this episode, we will explore his journey from high finance to holistic living and what it really means for men to engage deeply in life's most meaningful moments.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything you want me to change?
No. I think it's that's good. It's a good. I like it.
Former Wall Street pro. What is it? Yeah. What does it mean to be a Wall Street guy? What is it? Where can you?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that in and of itself gives me a little bit of, makes me feel a little bit uneasy, but that term just whatever, right?
Sure.
And people in empty suits doing weird things on Wall Street, right? But for me, it was I spent almost 20 years in a seat that, I loved. Like I was super passionate about it. Loved the game. I sort of, not in this grandiose sort of self-aggrandizing way, but I was like, I'm gonna be like a pro athlete. I'm gonna be the best at this game. And I loved it. I breathed it all day, every day. And I specifically was on the hedge fund side. So I worked at a commodities hedge fund and a long short equity fund. Was fortunate to have a couple amazing mentors. And so for me, that was a big part of the journey, which was had this passion, this love for, again, I'll call it a game because it kind of is, it all is, I guess, everything that we're doing here. But I loved it and wanted to hone my craft. So I was fortunate to work with some really super talented people that I learned from for years. So I never thought I was going to do anything different. I'm like, this is it. I worked an insane amount. It never felt like work. And so, yeah, did that in 2 different seats over about a decade each. So yeah, what does that mean? It's a lot of things. For me, it just meant, kind of being in that ecosystem, which is massive. It's global. It's there's so many millions and millions of different permutations of what it means to be interfacing with global Wall Street, so to speak, but for me, it was investing, trading, looking at, kind of looking at the world through a global macro lens, which is that was kind of the discipline that I came from. And trying to anticipate seeing what's going on in the world politically, geopolitically, economically across different countries. And it was fun. It was a blast. I never thought I would do anything different.
It sounds incredible. Honestly, the way you describe it, you can still feel the passion.
Yeah, it's there.
Were you, did you know you wanted to do that from a young age? Like, when did you decide?
No, I had no idea, honestly. I grew up, what was then a small town, Lancaster, California. So LA County, high desert, small town. Less than 100,000 people. Now it's a big commuter suburban town into LA. But when I grew up, it was just small desert town, right? So most people never leave. Everybody jokes. It's kind of like, oh, it's like Breaking Bad. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like that. That's it's not incorrect. But I was fortunate to have good people around me growing up, whereas a lot of people that I grew up with ended up in jail or dead or, through, just it's an interesting part of the state. Feels like it's not part of urban coastal California at all. Right. So, had good people around me that gave me some good guidance. I went to UCLA, studied engineering. And I'll never forget this. I met with a counselor and I told her, like, I don't know what I want to do with my life long term. And she's like, well, you just either and people do that, or you just, you're on this path. So you just roll with it,
you
right?
Just try things.
Which to me sounded insane. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't want to have like an empty life experience. And so fortunately, when I look back, and we can talk more about this later, I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but when I look back, I've always had some guardian angels, people that I met that were really critical to my path. And so I'm always thinking about that now. How do I pay it forward to help other people? Because I've had so many people come in, and I literally, I went to UCLA and I was working at a bar to pay my way through school. And a guy came in and he's like, hey, you should look at this. He saw me reading a book about China. He's like, you should look at the London School of Economics. I went there. It's a great curriculum. One thing leads to another, and that's where I ended up for a summer program.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
that's crazy.
Yeah,
had that guy not come in,
exactly. Was I not reading that book at that moment?
Right.
And honestly, that's the through line for me across all of this. Is for a long time that was part of my life experience, but I didn't surrender to it. It's like I knew it was there, but it didn't lead me. Whereas now that's totally what leads me.
When you say that was part of your life experience, are you talking about these synchronicities?
Exactly. Yeah.
And how would you describe that? What do you mean? What do I mean by synchronicity? Like how would you? For me, it's a deeply spiritual question or conversation, and it's force greater than my own humanity. My own intellectual plans or ideas or desires, right? And, you can call it God, source, whatever. For me, it's easier to refer to that energy as God. I'm always expressing gratitude for God's hand in my life. And that's what I see in moments like that. I'm just some random college kid studying engineering from can I use colorful language, by the way? Yeah, from some shit town in California. And, which I'm grateful for that experience. But I was at a bar and some guy comes in and I'm reading a book about the Chinese economy and like, what are the odds of that happening? Even me being at that restaurant was, almost impossible. So that really blows me away. Like I stand in awe of that kind of thing. So yeah, it was part of my experience, but I didn't really
honor it or look at it with reverence.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, oh, that's kind of a trip. But it wasn't like now today I see, oh, that's exactly that's it. That's the path. Right. So yeah, met him, went to the London school, came. And then while I was there, I was fortunate to meet a guy who was starting a firm in LA coincidentally, and came back and helped him build the business. And it was off to the races for me. It was awesome. I had an incredible experience, loved every minute of it.
Where were you based out of?
Los Angeles, just LA proper. Yeah.
LA. Okay. Yeah. And then for people who don't know, because a lot of people that are listening to this, so there's different sections of Wall Street, and you said you did commodities, or can you explain that like really basically for people that are listening so they understand what that means?
Yeah. So and back to your question a minute ago, I had this experience with the counselor, didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. And then I felt there was a pull, like I ended up started reading the paper, and I would find myself in engineering classes reading the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal. It's like, ooh, there's energy here for me. And so that one thing led to another, met this guy, I'm shortening the story quite a bit, but one thing led to another. So I was like, okay, there's something here for me. And when I came back to LA and started working with a guy who was a phenomenal, friend, brother, and mentor of mine, it was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. I loved it because it was just it's a constantly evolving puzzle, incredibly complex. You can never figure it out perfectly. And I love to learn. I love learning about new things, new countries, new industries, new companies. Even seeing what you guys are doing here is amazing. Hats off to you, by the way. You and I have talked about it loosely, being in the neighborhood together, but it's really awesome to see what you're doing.
Thanks.
To physically see it and shake hands with some of these people is awesome. So yeah, I loved it and knew like, this is it for me. This is what I'm going to do. But that experience for me was, we traded commodities. So we really managed money for people, large institutions. We ended up starting a hedge fund effectively. And we would make bets on, prices of everything from crude oil, natural gas, agricultural commodities, base metals, precious metals, currencies, all the things, and informed, not always perfectly, we made mistakes all the time. And that the market experience is what professionally and personally has given me a lot of humility, because it's always like, we're going to be wrong often. I'm going to miss something all the time. So where am I wrong? What am I missing? That served me really well on my spiritual path as well. Right. So yeah, we invested in these various markets, and that was early 2000s through the Chinese economic boom and in a big global, boom and global growth across the world. And so it was a really fascinating time. I mean, even the financial crisis of '08, not that we were geniuses, but we felt a lot of that coming. So we were in a lot of these trades that were high profile. You would read about the news, movies were made about them. And so for me as a guy in his 20s, and I had a lot of responsibility that I probably shouldn't have, just because I was hungry and willing to do whatever. And my mentor partner saw that, and I'm very grateful for him for rewarding that kind of grit and perseverance. But yeah, it was an amazing time for me.
That's so cool. I'm fascinated by people that work in any kind of money, the industries of money, right? Because, and I wonder how people get good at it. I think the common person thinks that it's about a hunger for money, but the way you're describing it is it's like a game with a scoreboard.
Exactly.
Right. And so it's like, and then I love how you said, it's like something you could never solve. Like it's an enigma. Right. Yeah. Which is, I feel similar to that, because the space that I found myself in is human beings are like the most complicated things ever to understand. Right. And so one of the most complicated problems of human beings is something I'm interested in. And how do you solve it? Is it possible to solve it? It's so seductive to try to think about what am I missing and what could be done different. Right. So I understand it. How much, you mentioned I wouldn't say intuition, although I think it evolves to intuition, but you mentioned these people in your life that show up and they're sort of watershed moments that you don't even realize at the time. Right. And then later you start to ride that, like you start to learn to read the omens, right? And
for
the things that are, did you find yourself, because you my perception of you is that you're a pretty intuitive guy. When you were working in commodities, was intuition a part of? How much of it was your gut?
Yeah.
Like, did you give store to that, or was it all data all the time?
It was, I think, for lack of experience early on, it was the latter. It was all data all the time. How can I read more? I mean, my romantic relationships at the time were terrible because I was like, I'm not hanging out with you on a school night. I got to read. I got to get smarter. It was like that was all I did all day long. Later, having lived through, because I eventually moved over to a long short equity fund, and again had an incredible mentor. So post crisis, economy is sort of ripping back. Everything's rebuilding, recovering, and then we basically started investing in companies. So that was a big change for me, learning how to invest in public companies around the world, and also amazing experience because we crossed geographies, different industries, and then my prior experience informed a lot of that. Looking at these big global trends. But yeah, as I matured, I think I realized that I lived in the space of just idolizing the great investors of our era. They were all my heroes. Like when I left my first seat in 2010, 11, all I wanted to do was go to New York and work with like the best. That was my mantra. I'm like, if I'm not doing this with this guy that I respect, which felt like it was sort of my own thing, I can control my own destiny. If I wasn't doing that, I'm going to go work for, the best of the best. Like I want to sit next to the fucking all-stars every day, know? And I don't care. And I sort of created this in my life. I was like, I don't give a shit how much I get paid. I'll fetch coffee for these guys every day so I can learn. And funny enough, like I ended up doing that. The guy hired me, it wasn't his fault, but it was a small fund and he didn't have a lot of money to pay me. And I was making coffee every morning. I was like, this is hilarious. I should have never spoken that.
You made it happen.
Yeah. But yeah, it was later I realized, wow, I think there's an experience that informs the intuition eventually. And then I just continue to hone that. I'm not an expert in any of this. You'll probably hear me say that way too many times today. It's like, I'm just a student. I'm not the expert. I'm not pretending to be. I'm just learning. But I try to listen to that because I do now believe that intuition is way more powerful than the intellectual understanding.
Yeah.
And I lean on that, especially when these synchronicities happen in life. I mean, even where I ended up, I'll never forget this. I was in New York hustling, trying to get a seat at a couple of these big funds. And I had to go to the airport. This guy that I had known loosely 10 years prior, I said, hey, are you around? I have a few minutes. It was pouring rain. We happened to meet on the street for like 10 minutes on my way to the airport. And then he called me a couple months later and was like, hey, I'm starting this new firm and I need somebody like you who's got entrepreneurial grit, who's been doing something a little bit outside the box. Because that was my thing. I was always in this world, but a little bit out of the mainstream. Because it was very gritty, entrepreneurial, kind of starting something with a small group. And how do we punch through and scale and create something awesome? And so fortunately, he recognized that that's different. There's a lot of people that have gone through these very, you graduated from here and you went through this analyst program and you did these things. So he recognized that and called me and I was like, of course, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So Then I spent about eight years with him. So
was that in New York?
No, that was back in LA.
Back in LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in New York and came back to LA to start something. So it just brought me back home, which was really funny. Yeah.
Wow. And was that also public companies or was it commodities?
Yeah, no, that was, so I transitioned from, trading in these different markets and looking at the world through this kind of broad global macro lens to zooming in and looking at specific companies.
I'm going to turn my phone off here. I'm breaking my own rules.
But we went, it was a much more narrow focus. I mean, industries that were cyclical, kind of old economy, manufacturing, everything, building materials, construction, machinery across US, Western Europe, developed Asia. So it was fun. I had a lot of, it was a decade of like very intense learning for me and I loved it.
What do you think, and we'll get on to, there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, but I'm curious because it seems like there's a recipe to being able to be good at all of that. And like you say, you're not the expert and I totally honor that, but certainly working around mentors and people who are brilliant, you probably started to see what the ingredients or elements are that make up somebody who's really capable.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say they are?
It's a good question. I mean, it's funny. You brought this up a minute ago about sort of mainstream perception of people who are in sort of this global Wall Street, if you will, around money. And I came to have a somewhat skeptical, maybe borderline jaded, although I promised myself I wanted to retain like a Zen beginner's mind. But I came to believe that it's really, really hard. You know, that space to be really good at investing and being a shepherd of people's capital over long periods of time is really difficult. Even the guys that I admired and idolized, they would admit, like, you know, George Soros, I think he's one of the best money managers in modern human history. The guy would talk about in his early books, he was wrong more than 50% of the time. It's like, how do you make money if you're wrong more than half the time? Because he was really good at managing risk. And when he was right, he made a lot. And when he was wrong, he lost little, right? So it's really tough. It's like that industry has accumulated like every astrophysicist, people with, you know, incredibly smart. And there's so many different like pieces along the spectrum. It's like way too much to talk about today. But it's really difficult to see who's really good, who got lucky. You can be lucky for a decade if you just ride a theme, you know. And again, I'm saying this with humility, right? I'm not a multi-billionaire today that made tons of money as a hedge fund manager. I was passionate. I loved the game and I was in it. So I say that with humility, but it's really tough. And to answer your question, I would always marvel at like, we would raise capital from institutions and endowments, and these guys never asked the right questions. Because to me, the right question to ask somebody to figure out, like, is this guy good? It would be like, why are you doing this? You know, are you passionate about this, or do you want to be rich and famous? And so that's what I think it is, at least for me, is like there's just a love for that thing, you know, and I think that, at least for me personally, maybe it's because I have a little bit more of a romantic vision of life, and I want to be in that space. I want to be passionate and love what I'm doing for my life's work, if you will. But I think in my humble opinion, that's the foundation.
Passion.
Yeah. And then it's like, yeah, the mentors are awesome. Maybe it's a direct mentor. Maybe it's a guy who wrote a bunch of books that you never meet. Truly, maybe you should read. Maybe he's dead now. Who knows, right? But there's a lot to learn, obviously, from those who came before us.
So based on what you're saying, I mean, I think I couldn't agree more around, I think that if you find that thing that, I was just talking to somebody else about this the other day, but if you find that thing that keeps you up late at night, you know, that's like stealing your sleep because you just can't stop, and then wakes you up in the morning, maybe before your alarm clock, because you're just like
totally
into it, you know, even when your body's wearing down, but it's like there's something, a force inside you. When you find that thing, that's like locking in the first major piece, right?
For sure.
Then, you know, you bring your natural talents to the table. Typically, those things go hand in hand because of something's inspiring you. It's part of that. And then what else you said earlier that I think is a huge part of it, and also part of how you're built, is remaining being a student. So it's like finding that passion, the thing that's driving you, maintaining, being open to learning, right? And then putting yourself in a good position with people that you can learn from.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I wouldn't think, when you said that asking the wrong questions, I didn't think that would be the questions.
Yeah. I just would marvel at it because, you know, I sat in so many of these meetings in, you know, huge pools of capital, many, many billions of dollars. And to be fair, the people who are putting out those dollars are not always incentivized by the performance of the money managers that they're giving money to, which they should be. They should be getting paid more if their managers are doing well, right? So sometimes there's a little bit of a misalignment of incentives, but it was always like, because I saw so many people who maybe they did great and they accumulated a ton of wealth, but they didn't love it. And so the writing's sort of on the wall. Like eventually there's going to be a blow up. There's going to be a meltdown. The ego is going to take over, right? Whereas in my experience, the folks who were humble and just loved it, this infinitely evolving complex puzzle, they would win long term, you know? So,
that's so good. I've never heard anyone talk about money. I mean, people think Wolf of Wall Street, right? And they think of like hustle and just this kind of grimy, like psychopathic sort of, you know, you break the mold in terms of what I think most people think of. So I love it. I think hopefully that somebody who's looking or thinking about getting into that game can hear what you're saying and take something from that.
Yeah. No, I always tell people it's way more boring than what you would imagine. Like you walk into the office, it's just like a bunch of people that are quiet, looking, reading and studying, right? It's basically it.
Sure.
And crazy stuff happens, but it's not, at least where I sat, it wasn't anything. People weren't doing, lines of cocaine on the desk in the morning. It was just like a bunch of really smart, usually good people just trying to figure things out, you know? So of course there's outliers, but it was quiet. It was cerebral. It was, you're again, just learning all the time. Like, how do I ramp up and become a master, so to speak, or get my arms around this industry in a very short period of time so that we can understand it from the perspective of we might want to invest in this company for the next 10 years. So yeah.
And so you've been a crazy student to global economics and markets. And so how do you stop thinking about that? Do you still think about it?
I do. Yeah, definitely. And it's, it's woven into what I'm doing now, which to your point earlier, I think that's what has been part of the magic for me, is like the passion is there, but then I've learned to surrender to, some of these things that you mentioned a minute ago. It's just, share more about what I'm working on now, but it's completely different for me now. Now it's sort of like I show up, it's like, okay, just tell me what to do, like surrender to God, like tell me what to do today. And that's for me totally supercharged my professional life experience, because it's no longer about my own self-serving, self-centeredness. How much money am I going to make? How do I get this over here? It's like, okay, how can I like use my skills, and in a way that's for the greater good, and also, hopefully enriches my own life and my family and legacy and all that. And I think really the further I've gone in my career, I try to surrender to that on a deep level, especially now. It's like, okay, I have a sense for this new thing I want to do, but you gotta tell me what to do. You gotta tell me how to bring this to fruition. And so that's been incredibly powerful for me.
That's the best place to work from. I tell people all the time, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm pondering right now. I'm thinking, right? I'll find myself driving around or walking around, and I try to create as much space in my head as possible to find or feel or see the answer. And sometimes it's not even that I ask a question. It's not even that it's like, I need to know the answer to this. Is this a yes or no? It's like, I can feel that there's something more for me to understand or know. And so then it's like, be quiet and listen. And most often, I call it the tea leaves. It's like you sort of throw all the things down on the table in front of you, all the life circumstance, the people, the little things you heard from this random person that's stuck in your head. You throw it on the table and you look at it and go, how does all this fit together to produce whatever I'm supposed to make here?
Totally.
And that's a space I've been working from for a while. I'm not always there, Matt. Like I pull out of it, but the best things happen in that space.
Totally.
It's like trying to find that common, like the, when you should be analytical and really frontal cortex and executive functioning kind of mode versus like intuitive. I heard this, and I'll let you, I want to hear more about what you have to say, but there's this really cool TED talk from a woman named Amaryllis Fox about intuition.
Okay.
So Amaryllis Fox married a Kennedy, and she wrote a book called Young and Undercover. She was the youngest ever non-official cover CIA operative. Super interesting. She went over to Burma when she was 18 and like snuck information over the Burmese border into Thailand when Aung San Suu Kyi was being arrested. And she did this whole thing she shouldn't have done. And then because she pulled that off, it gave her like this position at the CIA. So she had this crazy career at a young age. And she talks about intuition and the power of intuition in her life. And she's very analytical. So it was the first time I'd ever heard this explanation of it. And I loved it. And I still play with it all the time, especially when I'm working with very analytical people. And I'm trying to explain the necessity for me to find my intuition.
Sure, yeah.
And so she says that we all have a supercomputer, right, that is far more capable of finding the answers to things, and anything mathematically our frontal cortex can do in this like time constructed, sort of deal. And so she said there's calculations going on behind the scenes, and that it's so primal, right? It's so early. It's like stuff that goes back, since the dawn of man, and that it's so complex that it can't speak to us in language. It speaks to us in feeling. Mm-hmm. And so it gives you like a pull, right? It says this way or that. It predates language. And so if you think of it like your supercomputer, right? So how do you allow all the information that your brain has been processing behind the scenes to pull together into a place to give you direction?
Yeah, there's a Taoist angle for me. The Dao De Jing is like one of my, I read it like the Bible, and I grew up in a strong, Christian church, and I think there's so much wisdom in Christ's teachings. But the Dao De Jing is like, I have a therapist who I've been speaking to for 6 years every week. He's brilliant, and I've literally spent those 6 years studying the Tao with him, and I've run my current business based on those principles. I just read it, study it. I'm not the expert. Lao Tzu, is its supposed author, ancient, Chinese philosophical text. Some people say it's, thousands of years old, prior to, I don't know, 1000, 2000 BC, something like that. I'm probably getting a lot of this wrong, but it's just it's a really beautiful philosophical framework for the world. That's how I look at it. It's not a religion. Maybe, again, some people would disagree with that. Taoism could be considered a religion, but the Dao De Jing is just an incredible, super simple text. Stephen Mitchell, who's like this phenomenal poet, writer, translator, he's done a transliteration of the Dao De Jing that's very poetic. It reads beautifully. I have it in my bag over there. I carry it with me everywhere I go. And the whole concept is basically not forcing anything. Some of my favorite passages are like wise men don't need to prove their point. Men who need to prove their point are not wise. Right. So I also love David Hawkins. You probably hear me mention him a lot. He wrote Power versus Force and a bunch of other books. And it's all about this concept of like inspired action. That's where the power is. The forcing, based on our own intellectual understanding and logical interpretation, that's forceful. Mm-hmm. That's not where I want to be personally. You want to be in the power. Right. And so the Dao De Jing speaks to this a lot. It's a surrendered way of living. But to your point, I look at it like you're sort of riding the waves. You're not forcing anything. You're waiting for, some sign, some direction from, I'll say it's divinely inspired action. And then you go in and you utilize all of your intellectual firepower and all these things. Right. Instead of leading from that place. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not a genius, but I'll say with a ton of humility, like I've run a business built on those principles. Not perfectly, I've screwed up all the time, but like it can work, and instead of trying to fight and convince people, shareholders, investors, or anyone, it's like, hey, I don't need to force anything here, and just stay focused on, what our mission is, what our vision is. And often like these problems that a lot of us spend a lot of energy getting spooled up around, they sort of take care of themselves. That's what I found. So,
that's so interesting. I want to hear more about when did the Dao De Jing first appear to you? When was that?
It was about 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay, I think you said that. So,
yeah, it coincided with a massive life transformation for me.
Yeah. So how about that? So you were doing the Wall Street thing. Mm-hmm. What was the catalyst for you to make that shift? Yeah,
so I was there again, thought that was it. It's all I'm going to do. I love it. I'm going to die doing this when I'm 90 or whatever. And then the fund that I was involved in, my mentor, he wasn't sure if he wanted to continue. So there was a discussion of winding this thing down. And I was just like, okay, just it sort of phased out, and I was on basically sabbatical for about a year, just kind of listening. I had just met my now wife, mother of my son, incredible woman. You know her well. Mm-hmm. COVID, sort of the whole craziness of the world started happening late 2019, 2020. So there was there's a lot of chaos in the world, right? And so we retreated to Venice Beach and just got into this little bungalow, and we're sort of in a bubble. And through a series of coincidences, I, met my now business partner who we co-own the company in Texas. And again, it was the same thing. I visited this landfill site that they potentially wanted to turn into a solar project. Some guy got on the phone and said, hey, you need to talk to this dude in Texas. I picked up the phone and we just hit it off. And I knew immediately there's something there. And so 6 months later, we moved to Texas. Him and I got in a room. We set up the business. We didn't know anything. It was just like, I knew there was something there.
We got to go back a little bit here though, because that's crazy. So you meet April.
Mm-hmm.
Did you sort of know that it was love right away? I mean,
yeah,
it was pretty obvious.
100%. Love at first sight.
And then you hunkered down like everyone,
yeah,
right? We're
exactly.
isolating, but just...
Yeah, we were in love.
Yeah.
I felt guilty because people were like, oh God, this is a shit show. I'm like, dude, I'm in love.
The best time of my life.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with my girl and we're just having a blast every day.
Probably helped too not to feel, because we went to sabbatical, right? So I can imagine you'd be stir crazy. Like, what am I going to do? But it's like, oh, we kind of have an excuse to just chill right now and figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So during that time, were you even thinking start a business possibly? Were you planning on going back into?
Yeah, I thought for sure it was just going to, as it had always been the case for me, it would just meander back to this path that I was on.
Okay.
And so when that transition came, I mean, it came fast and furious. And I met this guy and we did a bunch of work. I was helping him remotely, and he was working on this big utility scale solar project in Texas. And I eventually got to the point where I was like, look, man, I don't know your business. Like, I've been around these markets a lot and trading energy and power, but I can raise capital. I've done that. I've been in entrepreneurial seats my whole career. Like, I know how to build stuff, and that gets me fired up. And so him and I connected, and it was a true kind of, cook it up in the basement and grind it out. And it was tough. Yeah. So anyway, just slow down a little bit. This whole thing came together. And again, it was almost like this was massively transformative for me, but there was a death of like the old self. Because, I was like this hedge fund guy. That's all I wanted to do was be one of the best hedge fund managers in the world. That was like my mantra every day. And to me, like, going away from that was giving up. Right. And that's really hard for me. I don't like to give up. I'm not always going to win, but I'm not going to fucking quit, Sure. And it felt like quitting, but I had to go through this whole process of like, that guy's dead. He's dead, and you should just honor him and be grateful and move on. And that's what I tried to do. And so just stepped into this new seat where I was uncomfortable. Like, I wasn't used to not knowing more than most people in the room when it came to like my subject matter. Wow. Right. And so I went into it and just, we started a business, and that's a whole story, but it's been a lot of fun.
So you're with April. I didn't understand. I think I just missed it, but you go from hunkered down with her. And then how does this phone call, were you being asked to get involved in something to help raise money? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was asked to help with this project, and we went to visit the site, and it was a landfill, and they wanted to turn it into a big solar project. And one of the guys I'll remember vividly, because I remember these moments, he picked up the phone and he was sort of standing in the dirt, and he called this guy and was like, hey, I'm going to call this dude in Texas. And, then he put me on the phone with him, and then that started this whole series of events. Wow. Yeah.
What solar power in Texas?
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, Texas is a massive market for renewable energy, wind and solar, just because the geography, topography, a lot of sun resource, a lot of wind resource. Kind of controversial now. I mean, the way I look at energy is it shouldn't be a political hot button, but it is. I try to look at these things very pragmatically. I don't get hyper political about any of this, because I always feel like, you can make a political argument for any of these things on either side, but energy's become highly politicized, in my opinion, but it doesn't have to be. No. Solar makes great sense in some areas. In other areas, it doesn't make sense at all. And so markets like Texas, there's a lot of land that's relatively cheap. There's great solar resource. Same thing with wind. There's an intermittency issue that you got to fix that hopefully now is being mitigated by battery energy storage. So yeah, it's a huge market. And we started the business around one big project there. And then that it's expanded from there. We have a small team, multiple projects across the US and US territories. And it's been a humbling journey. And again, it was just a leveling up for me of this idea of surrender, you know, the way the way of the Tao. It's like, I just need to let go. And when I know I'm supposed to act, I'm going to serve this thing with tremendous passion, but I'm not going to intellectually drive, you know, where it's going.
It sounds like you found, so another way to put it, and it's not as romantic, but it's almost like hyper efficiency. Like you've eliminated all the unnecessary bullshit that we all stress ourselves out over, and you're just focusing on what matters. It's incredibly powerful idea.
Yeah.
So I think people are like, oh, but I should be stressing. I should be thinking about, I need to push. I got to get this done. Like this has to happen. Right.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you for saying that. I guess, that's probably true. Although I still make mistakes there every day. This morning I did. Right. But yeah, that idea of doing and non-doing, which the Dao De Jing references a lot, which I believe is non-doing is not sitting around doing nothing, right? Like doing is the forcing, doing is the intellectual mind. This is what I should do. It's based on fear or lack or whatever, right? Pride, ego. That's doing, which I think is usually pretty counterproductive. The non-doing is like you're surrendering to a force. It's greater than your own humanity. And it's divinely inspired action. And we all know it. Right? When we feel it, it's like you're fucking fired up. Like it doesn't feel like you're doing anything because you're just moving, right? Like you said, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're not tired. You're just in the flow. Yeah. It's like a flow state. And so I try to be in that non-doing space, but again, I fall short all the time.
I hope that people listening to this could think about taking something like the Dao De Jing and applying it to business. I mean, I had no idea we were going to talk about that today, but I think that's a powerful idea, and it resonates with me so much. I mean, I was just having a conversation earlier about ideas that are so powerful that they burn, and you have to get them out.
For sure. Yeah.
One recently, it was just stealing my sleep. It was like I didn't have a choice. I literally couldn't stop thinking about it until I got it all out of my head. And then now if I do think about it or I get involved in it, it fires me up and I can't sit still. And it's like those kinds of things that's special. That's important.
Totally.
And maybe divine.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I certainly believe so. That's my view for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to come through. And if we don't do anything, it'll come through somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's also interesting to me to think about the non-doing. I mean, I don't know much about, I know a little bit about Taoism, but nothing like I haven't studied it. I think what's interesting also is human beings, like we're built for this, you know, our whole dopaminergic system is about drive, right? So we have the flesh that's sort of pushing us forward. That's how we got here.
Yeah.
And then culturally, like the idea of not doing anything and just letting things happen, you could, sort of appear to be like, woo.
Yeah, exactly.
Guy, you know?
Like, totally.
I'm just going to like let the universe take
exactly.
me. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
But I think, and you mentioned surfing, and I think I've said this on one of the other episodes, so forgive me if it's like I'm repeating myself, but there's, I think you and I both love the water. We have this common thing.
For sure.
No question. But I'm not a surfer. You're a surfer.
No, not really. No, not even pretend.
You tried to be a surfer.
Yeah, I've tried.
I watched you
failed miserably. But.
I think one day I said to April, like, she's like, did Matt catch wave? I was like, yeah. And she was like, really?
Exactly.
I think he was there waiting to see if you were going to jump in.
The wifey knows the truth for sure.
They always do. Yeah. But I think that I was talking, I interview a lot of surfers. I work with a lot of surfers, and I think that surfing is actually a good way to look at this, and maybe you could relate it to the Tao. So it's like you have the energy, which is what's driving the surf to rise. You have your awareness, which is like paying attention to what's happening out there. You have to be like very tuned in to feel where to be and how to be there. And you certainly can't be like, I'm going to fucking do this how I want to do it. Right. Like, that's not going to happen. Right. Then you have the different waves, which are like opportunities, and they're coming your way. And then you could choose or not choose to try to ride one. And then if you do, you need to be fit enough to ride it, right? So you have to have some skills. This is like you're saying, like when you're ready to show up, like you got to be ready, you know?
Yeah.
And then you eat shit all the time too, right? And then hopefully you're good enough to sort of like turn and like manipulate your direction in life, you know? So you're still the cosmic energy's there, but you're like, maybe you're beautiful when you do it,
right.
you know, which is also another piece. Like it's actually, and maybe lastly, you're smiling and like all these things coming together that you're experiencing joy while connected to the universe, but not every time. You didn't get to choose. You're somewhat direction, but it's mostly pushing you. And, you know, I think that's how I've come to understand for myself the difference between you can't just go out and sit in the waves and be like, whatever happens. And
right.
like, you know, there is a surfing piece.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a beautiful and totally appropriate metaphor. I totally agree. It's like what, you know, you're not sitting there cranking away all the time, going. You're waiting, and then the opportunity comes, and then you're relying on all of those things that you've, you know, accumulated through your life experience, right? So I totally believe that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I would highly recommend, you know, again, you know, humble observer, but for anyone listening, the Stephen Mitchell translation of the Dao De Jing is unbelievable.
Stephen Mitchell,
yeah, it's like 70 chapters. Each chapter is literally like a 1-page poem. It's super short. I mean, I carry it, I open it up, read one 10-line passage chapter, and it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing in my opinion.
Do you talk to April about this stuff all the time? Does she know how you...
She knows where I sit. Yeah. She knows where I sit.
Yeah. She's something else.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of energy. She's a powerful woman.
She's a powerhouse for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, tell me about how you met her.
We met at a party that mutual friend was having, and she walked in the door and I immediately knew. I mean, literally when she walked in the door, I was like, this is it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't take I was like, either she's going to get really annoyed and I'm going down in flames, or I'm locking this in today.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was awesome. I feel very lucky to have met somebody that way, in an organic way, that, you know, I feel like so many incredible teachers, spiritual teachers that have transformed my life experience and the way I look at the world. She's one of them. My business is one of them, you know. So I feel very fortunate to have met her the way that I did.
What was your impression of her when you first met her?
I mean, she was beautiful, of course, physically, but there was an essence. There was a knowing, not that it was about me. It was just, there was a knowing. I never understood, like I always wanted to believe that was true, that could happen, that there's this love that's so profound that you can just know, but I didn't. I was like, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe people are just crazy. And then when it happened to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it now.
Especially looking back, right?
Yeah.
So you're carrying your baby and you have this life, and it's like, well, of course. Like,
exactly.
This is the person that when I first met her, I was destined to do all of this stuff.
Totally.
So you feel the weight of that in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, again, it wasn't us. It was a force greater than us. Like for us to be there at that moment, it was almost an impossibility. I was supposed to be somewhere. I was supposed to go home. There was a snowstorm. This is the high desert. The snowstorms like every decade. She was supposed to be somewhere else, totally out of the realm of possibility for us to be at this place at that moment. And so going back to the Tao, it's like, that's why I joke to myself, and sometimes in conversations with buddies, it's like all of the amazing things that have happened for me in my life have happened despite me trying to force things. Not because of it, not because of all the efforting. It's like all the great stuff has happened despite all that, right? My own planning and preparing. And because even with all this, I'm still constantly thinking about stuff and trying to figure out what to do next. And all the great things happen despite all that, right?
I love doing this I love doing this show because I learned so much. And I know you said you're here as a student.
I am, yeah.
But oh my God, like if you knew how important what you were saying is to my life right now, my brother and I can't wait till he listens to this. And when he listens to it, he'll hear me say that and then he'll know. We give you an idea. So we made a strategic plan a couple of years ago. We aimed for all these things. We wrote a detailed plan about how to get there. None of the way that we got there was how we planned. In fact, if you measured the plan based on our ability to execute around the tactics that we set up, failure, like big ol' F. However, we surpassed in beyond our dreams even some of the priorities that we were focused on.
Okay.
They happened in completely different ways. We were working really hard, forcing things to happen over here, and then they just appeared over here, right? Like we said, this is our target for this, and then randomly this thing happens, a person shows up, and the target gets resolved in a very short few moments when we spent hundreds of hours pushing on what we thought was the right way. Right. And this is like such a challenging thing as a business to try to like think about, like how do you not, I think, is it control? You think, is that what it is? You think we all want, you think that's what, I'm not you because you're not living in this way, but what do you think it's control that most people? For
me, and again, I do this still every day, despite my commitment to live over here, I still fall short every day. And for me, it's a perception. It's a false perception of control. It's like, I think that I'm in control. Yeah. But I think you're right. It's this like, even for me, it's like I'll surrender. I go through that process. Awesome things start happening. I love what you just shared, by the way. That's amazing. And congrats. Like that's the coolest shit to me. Like that's what happens over and over again in life. It's different from what our own planning self had in mind. But yeah, for me, it's a perceived control that isn't even real to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've been obsessed with this idea for a long time, but not in the same place as you in terms of how you're relating to it. I would like to be more in that place, but I think about control and I think about fear because I think it starts with fear, right? So like being afraid, then it's like, okay, I need to control my environment, and then you start digging in further, and then it becomes like force. And then that's like the antithesis of what you're talking about, which is flow. And it's the last thing you want to do when things are unknown is let go.
Totally.
Like, I'm going to not give a shit right now. I'm just going to embrace the call of the universe,
Or conversely, when things are really good, right? I mean, that's like, I've been on both sides where, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to survive. I mean, this business, we had a period where we put everything online, literally everything. And I was like, I had to borrow money. It was like I was at the low of the low. And I mean, it's all relative. I'm very conscious of the fact that like we've had an incredible life despite challenges on a relative basis to the rest of the world. But it was tough. And then when things get really good, it's like, oh, cool, I got this now. Which is really funny. I laugh at myself. I'm like, dude, you didn't create any of this. And now you're like saying that you got the ball, like you're going to take over from this universal power, which is just ridiculous, right? Yeah. And I find that almost as hard when things are really good. When things are really good, to not hold on tightly, So.
Wow, that's amazing. I totally get it. Yeah, that's. I'm curious just a little bit about, and also I want to not now, but I want to circle back about global markets because you have an insight and we have a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. And I'm curious, not now, but I want to circle back to like the tariffs and some of that stuff and get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
But around the solar stuff. So one of the things I'd love to talk about is starting businesses and what that takes and what you think the keys, but I think you're answering a lot of these questions already because you're shaping a philosophy to run a business. But what is, when you say solar power plant, what the hell is that? For people who don't know, what is a solar? Is it just a bunch of solar panels?
Yeah, exactly. 1,000 acre, 2,000 acre plots of land, solar panels as far as the eye can see. That was sort of, 1.0, if you will, of the industry that started, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And then now technology's gotten a lot better. They're a lot more efficient. And all of these projects, at least the stuff that we're working on, are, they're paired with battery energy storage. So that way you're mitigating the intermittency, because obviously the sun goes down, then you don't have power. And so sort of the industry is moving to a place where energy storage probably will be able to keep the power flowing 24/7.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but that's sort of the common goal. But yeah, just big, massive solar fields and
have you seen
energy storage.
They shine a light on a tower and
there's one outside of Vegas.
Yeah.
I think it was a big DOE funded project. I think had some mixed outcomes. I don't know that much about it, but I think, I forget the name of it, but yeah, it's interesting. It's sort of like the Wild West. And again, not an expert. I've been building a business around it just more as an operator, shaper of the business, but there are guys on our team that know a lot more about the nuances than I do, engineering, the technicalities and what have you. But it's very new. It's in its infancy still, and there's so many aspects. There's controversial stuff, very recent, current administration. And I get it. Like, people don't like the fact that the industry is subsidized by federal tax credits, so they want to phase those out. But fortunately, that will mean power prices have to go up to compensate, to incentivize new power generation facilities to be built. So there's and honestly, that's sort of the story of my career, is just like remaining humble to the complexity. It's like nothing is, I'm looking at the photo behind you, with RFK, and it's like, there's just stuff's really complex, and I feel for people in political seats because they have to condense it into sound bites, but it's like, this shit is really, it's really complicated, and you can't just get on TV and talk about it in 5 minutes, and that's the whole story. So
I like that you correlated that to him, because I think that's a perfect example. Like, you have to really commit to listening to him talk for long form to understand what the hell he's saying.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a great thing for the country. But if you don't, and you just capture sound bites, you're like,
sure.
And then it's so easy. In fact, I just read a thing in the Washington Post yesterday where the surgeon generals were basically like, we have a duty to warn the world about RFK. And I'm friends with this political guy, and he was like, I responded to it, and he was like, you should write op-ed. I can get it published for you. And
nice.
And what the point was, though, it was exactly what you're saying, which is like, these guys, like, really all I could land on was that the surgeon generals, I think they mean well, and I actually believe I believe that they believe what they're saying is true. But the reality is that it's more nuanced.
Totally. Yeah.
And if they spent the time learning, they would understand, and then they would go, why in the hell would we not back this person when he's clearly motivated to do something good?
Yeah.
And if he is off on anything, let's just support him so he wins, because if he wins, everybody wins, you know? So
I totally agree.
Yeah. It's interesting, the complexity of all this stuff. What about Elon's made some pretty crazy claims around solar and what could happen. He's like, if we covered this much land, we could power the whole country. Is that true?
I mean, again, I'm not going to profess to be, industry, expert. Number one, not even close. It's like, I understand the business around it now. I understand how to raise capital around these projects. And a lot of I focus on the practicality of, like, is there a business here? How long will it last? What does this look like, 5 years, 10 years out? I do think that a lot of those things that he has talked about are true. But I sort of look at it as, I spent my early career like trading oil and gas, right? So I don't have like, I love planet Earth, right? I grew up swimming in lakes and rivers and oceans, and I have a sensitivity there. But again, there's just so much complexity, right? It's like, I don't think there's a perfect mousetrap for any of these things. And there's a transition happening. And, one of the things that I'm working on now is sort of a business of fund type structure that would invest in businesses that are regenerative agriculture, things like that I think there's a real need. There's people doing this already, but I think there's great need for capital and good stewards of capital for investing in some of these businesses that are, charting a different course in a new kind of economic paradigm. But I just look at it from the perspective of we're in a transition period, and it probably will outlast our lifetimes, and technologies will change. And I try to not be dogmatic about any of it, because I don't think anything that we're doing today, I mean, we could go deep down the rabbit hole. It's like, and I have these existential questions myself. Okay, we're building power generation. Cool. It's more renewable. It's more green. Awesome. What are people using it for? I mean, we see it on the beach every day, like there's trash, whatever. It's like, if we don't change our consumption, habits and the way that we produce things and consume things, like that's a problem, right? So it's a super, complex issue that is about a lot more than these specific, silos in the global economy. That's kind of how I think about it. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of promise there. I think it makes great sense in some places. Other places, it doesn't make any sense at all. I think the federal tax credit support, that's scheduled to go away. I get it. I grew up in a very free market kind of mentality professionally, so I understand that perspective. But there's a lot of support behind various industries that, post U.S. Industrial Revolution that created the paradigm that we now live in, right? So anyway,
that's true. What do you think of the mini
small modular nuclear reactors? Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's super interesting, and it can take some time. That's why, even just nuclear as it existed 20, 30 years ago, I mean, there's all this renewed interest now, which is awesome. But there's, it could take a decade, to bring those online. Yeah. So I think personally, that's my view, is that the politicalization of a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, has created an environment where we're not looking at it similar to healthcare. Like, we're not looking at it from like a holistic view, like where are the problems and how do we practically move forward in an efficient way, right? It's like, oh, this idea belongs to those guys, so that's shit. Get it out of here. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, like, my view is that there will be a significant power problem in the U.S. in the next few years because of what this recent bill, implemented. Because we have a path to incremental power generation that's quick around renewables. It makes a lot of sense in some places, doesn't in others. Gas, nuclear, these other, power generation facilities, it takes a long time. And data center and AI, there's a huge hype, a lot of hype, a lot of promise, a lot of hype. And unless there's a massive change in the technology, there's going to be a tremendous power demand. And so if new power generation isn't being built, it's going to be online in a few years, but there's a lot of new demand. There's probably an issue there temporarily. Sure. So anyway, that's a long.
Do you spend time thinking about how to use that to your advantage, or how to position yourself based on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it in the context of our current business that, okay, we just got to stay the course, do really well around what we have in front of us today, bring these world-class projects to fruition, and then there will probably be a lot of opportunity to do more of this in 3-4 years. Okay. So
that's so interesting. I feel like solar should just be an obvious thing to make money off of. I mean, we have this giant nuclear reactor in the sky, and it's giving us all this energy. It's not just, the fact that it gives plants and it feeds the whole world is amazing. And then the fact that humans figured out a way through photovoltaics to harness that. Yeah. Wow. It's pretty mind blowing. And it's such a I think it did get thrown in the bucket of like all renewable, or not renewables, but just green is bad. Yeah. Politicized. Yeah. It's weird. I think obviously, when I remember when we were trying to make, Al Gore in the early days of all this, and it was like, how do we bring the world towards this? And it was like, well, we got to make it valuable. We got to attract business people to it. Right. That happened. And then it did its thing. And then now, it got all its spokespeople, right? Yeah. Screaming, totally. We gotta, global warming, all this, right? And then those happen to be on one side of an aisle, or the other side wanted to kill it, and they're forgetting that there was like all this substance there. I think some of it is BS. I do. I think there's certain things that don't have the ROI at all. Right. It doesn't make any sense. Totally. Being done. But solar just has always seemed like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you started the company, you got some contracts. You had no idea what the hell you were doing, which I love, because coming from like data driven, the smartest guy in the room, not that you'd ever call yourself that, but to go from that space to like sitting there going, man, do I have to like put on game face right now and pretend like I'm not freaking out?
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that. And then good partner. You work
absolutely phenomenal human being. It feels like family.
Nice.
Which I feel very lucky there.
And you're out in Texas.
Yeah, mainly Texas, Puerto Rico. We have a big effort there, and Central West Texas.
You were living in Texas, though.
Oh, I was. Yeah, I was living there. So we moved. April and I moved there. Was great to us, and that was a plan to stay there, build the business, and then for many reasons that I'm sure you understand. Coming back, I grew up in Southern California, much different from coastal Orange County. But we visited Laguna Beach, North Laguna, fell in love with the community, fell in love with the people, and now it's home forever, for sure. Is the full stop? Yeah. That's the succinct, story for something that is really nuanced and interesting, different about where we live.
Yeah. Did you and April know family was part of the equation pretty early on?
I think.
Did you tell her you wanted kids?
Yeah. We were both clear.
Yeah.
With the right timing, it was absolutely.
She doesn't seem to be you. I would like. You're not a hippie, Matt, but you're like walking around barefoot with your beard and a big smile. Like, you two seem like you come from different places. I don't put her in that sort of like wild haired kind of. So how does that balance work? Although with your background, I mean, you also don't really fit the stereotype for a Wall Street guy either. So how does this relationship?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm sure a lot of this leads into one thing that we, sort of endeavored to talk about today, just the balance of the masculine, the feminine relationship, child rearing, childbirth, all those things. But I mean, she'll tell you she has literally created like a meme of me, like former life, in a suit, clean shaven, short hair versus today, right? So it's like I always tell people, I didn't always look like this, right? I've rebelled a little bit because I spent a lot of time in high-rise office buildings and fluorescent lighting. So it's like if I can be barefoot, walking around in the dirt, in the sun, on a call, still working, I'm happy, right? So being, by the beach in North Laguna has been, massively transformative for me in many ways, but that is an important one because I love being, outside and still love building businesses and doing all the things. So it affords a really amazing quality of life, as you know. So
how'd you get yourself comfortable with the idea of not being where your business is located?
It's a interesting question because I've always been old school. Like I want to look people in the eyes. I want to be with them. I want it to be tangible. Of course, it's easy for me. I can travel there less than 4 hours door to door. But I don't know. It's something that I'm still exploring because this new paradigm, I mean, as we started building out our team, everybody was distributed anyway. Like as we built out our executive team, nobody was really, I knew I was going to ask folks to relocate, talented people, great backgrounds, they could probably work anywhere. And so as this sort of post-pandemic remote work world has evolved, I think we're all rolling with it. And I still don't know how I feel about it. I don't love it. I like being, around people under the same roof. I think, so I try to get in front of people and shake hands and do those things as much as I can because I think it's really important.
Did you go out there quite a bit?
Not as much as I would have expected. We've been able to actually do it very well and very efficiently. But again, I different topic for another day, but I think one of my favorite books professionally is this book called Deep Work. And it's just all about, we're all massively distracted. a lot of these tools that allow us to do these things in terms of connectivity, they're great, but they're also some of our worst enemies, right? Mm-hmm. And so we don't often like sit here and look each other in the eye for 2-3 hours and have a conversation, right? And so I'm pretty fanatical about that. And I think it's hard to do that when you're at home. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm extremely disciplined, not to toot my own horn, but I am, and it's hard for me. So it's like, I know it's hard for a lot of people. You got a baby crying, you got whatever happening in the background. So we're still figuring it out, but I think we've been able to do a good job. And again, I can't complain. Like, I have an amazing quality of life right on the beach, and I can jump off a call and swim in the ocean, which is an incredible blessing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I walk on the beach with my 4-month-old son every morning, and I used to have a gratitude practice writing it down, but now I just speak it out loud so he can hear it. Mm-hmm. These are the 10 things I'm grateful for. I'm doing this while I'm walking on the beach at sunrise. It's like, how amazing is this? You know, so I feel very blessed to be able to live that way.
How you said you're a very disciplined guy. Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
Just
where
in
does
general?
It come from in you? Yeah. Tell me about how you run your day. Like, what time do you wake up, and what are the non-negotiables?
Yeah.
And also, where do you get it from? I think people understanding the value. Again, the people listening to this, they're listening to you like, how can I do that? Or how can I? So what have you learned about the value of discipline? Where does it come from in you? And what do your practices look like?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I laugh because I'm sure you know Jocko's work, and discipline equals freedom. And I used to always listen to his, like the
man.
Exactly, Akira the Dawn, like the remixes of him talking and stuff like that, which it's awesome. Like I totally believe there's magic there. I've tried to let go of some of that rigidity myself, because I've learned that, I think, to answer your question, where does it come from? It did come from a place of fear for me. I was like, I'm gonna fucking work harder than everybody. That's how I'm gonna win, right? And I'm not gonna be stuck where I grew up. And God bless that place. Like, I'm so grateful that I was born there and still have family there, and the sunsets over the desert are beautiful. But there was this like really powerful desire to like elevate above this place, right? To chart a different course, hero's journey kind of thing. Not that, you know, again, not to, but that resonates with me, that story. So that was what drove me, was like changing the circumstances of my life. Cause I grew up super humble beginnings. My parents, you know, amazing people, so grateful for them. But it was, you know, we grew up we survived, you know, it wasn't an extreme version of poverty or anything like that, but it was dicey. We lived in really bad neighborhoods. There was a lot of bad shit that happened around us. And so I would always listen to guys like Will Smith. He was talking about like, I'm on the treadmill and I'll keep going until I'm going to die, or the guy next to me is going to stop. Like, that's the kind of stuff that used to inspire me. And so yeah, that kind of discipline is what I lived with for a long time. And then that translated into all the routines. You know, my wife always jokes with me, like, what's the new protocol? Because I always have it's like, I'm doing this, I'm doing breath work for 30 minutes, I'm meditating for 20 minutes, I'm gonna, you know, cold exposure, all the things. And so that has served me really well. So yeah, I think that's what it, to answer your question before I keep going on, that is what it has looked like for me, is just like, okay, there's a personal spiritual practice that enriches my entire life, personally and professionally. Do that consistently on a regular basis, which I do think is really important. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, in my life's work or profession or vocation, you know, riding those waves of divinely inspired action, like we talked about earlier, and really honing the craft and getting better at it. And, you know, that has served me well. But also I've taken myself, I think, way too seriously at times, and missed out on some joy and the ability to, you know, I've probably wasted a lot of time and effort just trying to do things because my ego wanted to feel like I was doing shit. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I do know.
So
it's like you got your 4-hour morning.
Exactly.
routine.
Exactly.
You see those memes
That's
where
what
it's
it
like-
is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, I wake up at 3:00 in the morning and I do this, and it's like making fun of David Goggins
Yeah.
or all these people, you know.
Yeah.
I do love that you mentioned Jocko though, because, and hopefully I'll have him on here.
Mhm.
That's a goal. But I like that you mentioned him, because the idea of discipline equals freedom
Mhm.
is really interesting, because it's like the goal is to have this space, right? The pondering space, the ability to surf, right?
mhm.
But you really do have to have the right discipline
For
in
sure.
your life to create it. And if you don't, then you're sort of just living this entire life reactively, right? Reactively, like where everything's just happening to you. You're sort of bouncing around. But even like people who practice like the Shaolin Kung Fu guys,
Mhm.
it's like extreme discipline. Like almost all spiritual paths have discipline as
For
a
sure, yeah.
component to it. So it makes sense. I mean, you could even have extreme discipline around the rules that you have with following the Dao De Jing.
Mhm. Yeah, totally.
You know,
Yeah.
you could be disciplined about not holding on to things.
Exactly.
Yeah, letting go. And
Totally.
yeah, that's so you say protocols. What are your current protocols?
Honestly, I never thought I would say this, but after my first, child was born 4 months ago, I was quite humbled.
Yeah.
I used to think that people with kids were always making excuses. And I quickly learned that it's real.
Yeah.
And so prior to it was, I would wake up, I've spent, 15, 20 years waking up at 4:30 a.m. at the desk by 5:30, which was, I think, it eventually took a physical toll on me. And so now I embrace the luxury of waking up with the sunrise. So I would get up with the sunrise, usually go down to the beach and do some variation form of breath work, breathing practices, meditation. And to this point, what we were just talking about, that discipline, I think of two things. One, David Hawkins, his work, he really simplifies it. He's like, at the end of the day, like the spiritual path, the most profound thing you can do, and I think this is a discipline, is deep humility and surrender to God or to this universal force. Like that's it. Like if you do that consistently, that's in his view, sort of the path to enlightenment. But also there's a guy, Lauren Roche, who wrote this book called The Radiance Sutras. I've been, fortunate to work with him directly as a meditation teacher. And he helped me a lot by saying, he's like, Matt, that's really cool. You, for 20 years, you sat down for 20 minutes twice a day. You meditated. You were very disciplined about it. Like you did your thing. Like, because that was my mentality. Like, I'm doing this. I'm going to fucking do this meditation thing. I'm going to do it right. And he's like, he would tell me, like, that's awesome. You can give that guy a beer now and tell him, like, it's you can chill out a little bit now, and you can sit there for 20 minutes and you can open your eyes and you can feel the wind on your face and you can listen to the ocean. Maybe you can look into the eyes of your newborn son, and that can be your meditation. And that, I think, you can get into this, it can be, you can go off the rails with that, right? Yeah. Where you lose some of that discipline, but it's, to me, has helped bring me back to, I think, a more balanced position where it's not like I'm going to master all these things and do it through brute force. It's like there's a awe and wonder and delight that can come with infusing your life, with some of these practices, which I really needed. So, but yeah, breath work, meditation for sure is a go-to for me. And it's kind of, cliche now, everybody's doing it, but I think it's powerful. It's a powerful practice in any form. Yeah. I've been doing it for, I've been practicing meditation for probably 20 years now. And if I had one thing, that would be it. There's only one thing I could do every day. It would be some form of meditation.
What time of day?
I like mornings, before like the hustle and bustle of the morning starts. That's why I, kind of joke that with the arrival of the baby, our routine has been, I grab him in the morning so mom can get some extra sleep, and then I walk on the beach with him. Mm-hmm. So I try to turn that into a walking meditation. And I always joke that, I spent 20 years trying to be more present. And then the guru showed up, which is my child. Mm-hmm. And now I'm really present, with him and looking at the world, differently.
It's crazy, right? The hypervigilance is just, And what you said, I it's so important to not fight the natural instincts that are being called upon when a child is born, because there's so much energy spent. People going, oh, I need to make it this certain way. And it's like all the answers, they're going to tell you what you need to do next. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I love seeing you with him in the morning. It's been really cool for everyone in the neighborhood to see kind of your relationship, your and Rachel's relationship, the way you care for her. It's pretty awe-inspiring.
Yeah,
I love that you call him the guru.
Yeah, he's
the teacher.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's now teaching you
exactly
more than you've ever learned.
So true.
You know,
it's so true.
Yeah, that's Balthazar.
Yeah, little czar.
Yeah, which is what's the significance of that name?
You know, to be honest, we both just saw the name a few years ago and we loved it. You know, and then you research things more as you always do, and he supposedly is one of the names of the three wise men, and so one of our good friends in the neighborhood who you know well, they brought us a gift of myrrh, because Balthazar brought the myrrh, frankincense and myrrh to baby Jesus. He brought the myrrh, so they gave us a really cool sort of ritual altar piece that had myrrh in it, you know, for him after he was born, which was really neat. But yeah, that, you know, one of the three wise men. I think if you go deep on it and you read kind of the history, the language, what I think is cool is, it is said to mean, you know, God protects the king, and I'm sure we'll talk about it here, but you know, there's a journey of exploring kind of masculinity and the polarities of the masculine and feminine that I'm extremely passionate about. And I realized after he was born that that's what his name meant in some ways, is God protects the king, which I see that as, you know, the sacred masculinity in all of us men that I believe should be celebrated and cultivated and honored. Yeah. You know, so it's kind of like I accidentally, if you will, named my son, you know, gave him this name that will remind me, you know, of this path that, you know, this path of the embodied masculine presence that I'm really passionate about.
Where does that come from? I mean, obviously you're a man, but like, has this always been something you're interested in? And is it new? Is it based on the attack on masculinity that's happened? Like, where is it? Is it your and April's relationship? Was it there before?
Yeah, no, I would say, yeah, I mean, this is gonna be fun, I think. And I'll, you know, I feel like I should throw a disclaimer out there that I'll probably say things that might rub some people the wrong way. This is what resonates with me. I'm not the expert. I'm learning. I'll probably realize things that I was wrong about 5 years from now, you know, things I'm saying today. And I'm very aware of that, but it resonates deeply with me today. And I think it resonates with a lot of other great men and women that I interact with now. And so definitely was not always there for me. I'll try to weave this in a little bit. And if I get to, you know, if this is, yeah, just cut me off if we need to. Okay.
I'm so into this. I'm learning so much from you, and this is like one of the funner ones that I've done. Okay. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say, you know, I'll bounce around a little bit, but there's a book called Iron John, and it's written by Robert Bly, who was an award-winning American poet. Beautifully written in the 80s. The whole book reads like poetry, and he incorporates, you know, a lot of poetry, but it's really based around this mythological story of Iron John and the young boy who's born into the king and queen, and he loses his golden ball, and then the wild man in the forest initiates him. Basically, it's a story of initiation.
Okay.
And so,
like a rite of passage.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's beautifully written. I mean, I read this, I'm just like, oh my God, like, why is nobody talking about this anymore? Like, this was written almost 40 years ago, maybe more, I don't know. And I read it probably 5-6 years ago, and it made me realize, to answer your question, no, this was definitely not a part of me. I craved this initiation as a young man, as a boy, and as a young man and a man, adult man, but never had it. And his whole thing is basically post-industrial revolution, the fathers are away from the home. We're in these nuclear families. We're not a tribe. I know you speak to this. I mean, you turned me on to the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger, which is amazing. I think touches on some of this. But, post-industrial revolution, the fathers are out and the sons are raised by the mothers, which is amazing. Like, let it be clear, like, women are total badasses. Moms, like, they do things that us men can never do and vice versa, right? And I think should be spoken and recognized and praised, right?
They make life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Full stop.
Same thing. I'm just like, after seeing what I saw, my wife do, I'm like, all moms are badasses. That's just the bottom line. And I have tremendous respect. But so we lost this culture of initiation, and across like modernity, civilized society, industrialized world, there's consequences to that. So when I read that book, I realized, oh my God, like, this was my life. Again, so grateful for my parents, but they were divorced when I was pretty young. Spent some time with my dad, but not a ton. And the moms, they end up raising the kids, which is amazing. We're great. We're here because of them. Right. But there's an initiation that even the fathers sometimes can't do. It's the uncles, the grandfathers, the other men of the tribe, the village, the community. So I read that book in my 30s and then realized, like, whoa, there's something really deep and profound here. And it's cool now because there's a lot of other men talking about it, thinking about it. But I sort of just like went on my own personal journey with this. And so, it was new. And then I reflected on a relationship that I was in for a long time, romantic relationship that was not, balanced in the polarities of the masculine and the feminine. I was constantly, in a feminine energy, talking about everything, talking about work, talking about problems. Instead, I should have just been outside, like, being quiet or meditating or chopping some wood or
killing some deer.
Exactly. Walking in nature with my buddies or something. Yeah. Right. So it's a newish.
Just going back, because you said something, the Industrial Revolution, men went to work. What was going on before then? You didn't mention that. Like, how was it done?
I mean, what he speaks to, and I think a lot of the other work around this, I'm very grateful to these teachers. I've never met them in person, but David Data, who wrote The Way of the Superior Man, John Wineland, who wrote From the Core. It's all sort of along this through line, and I love all of their work. There's a lot of reference to, prior to that, from arguably thousands, millions of years of human history, we lived in tribes. Right. And within the tribe, there were a lot of things that were different. Birth was a lot different, which I know we're going to talk about. And I'm very cautious of, I'll say, like, the bro science of everything was better when we were hunter gatherers. Right. Yeah. It was also fucking really hard. And you maybe died when you were 2 or 10 or 20. Right. Yeah. And so I try to not, like, subscribe to that with this religious fervor. It's like, there were some things that were cool about the pre-industrialized world and the things we ate and all that. And I try to eat, and I know you do too, in a way that's consistent with the way humans have for millennia. But, people were also just trying to survive, right? So, and I'm not an anthropologist, I'm not an expert in any of this, but what these guys all speak to is just tribal cultures. There was an initiation, sort of the boys were brought up through the community to a certain age, old enough to understand what was going on, 4, 5, 6 years old. And then they were taken away by the men of the tribe, often the father, but more the uncles and the grandfathers, the non-father male figures. And they would go through a process of initiation and sort of introducing them to how to, their responsibilities to the tribe, how to be a man. I know that sounds really vague and weird, but
no, it doesn't.
How to live, properly in a community and contribute to this community and utilize your masculine gifts. So that's the way that I look at it. There was this paradigm that existed for many, many, many years that we've gotten away from for a very short period of time. This is all new.
Yeah.
And that's why arguably I think you've got you've got gangs, you have drugs, you have different things. We're initiating ourselves. You know, we're trying to find that initiation in whatever way we can.
Man,
you know,
it's true. You know, a lot of times when we, you know what I do, and so we get younger guys that come in. I think a lot of them are going out to find their own war, to test their mettle. I think that's a huge piece of it, especially if you look at the most prevalent drug use, it's like 18 to 23. It's this window of time where people are like looking for something, and we live in such a comfortable society with so much abundance that I think people want so badly to have a visceral and real experience.
Totally.
You know? I couldn't agree with you more. So these books, the Iron John, and
Way of the Superior Man, incredible, phenomenal book.
Were they was the catalyst because of the relationship?
Oh yeah. So yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. But it all kind of coincided for me. It was like there was this realization of, wow, this really resonates. And I was, probably, early 30s, 44 today. I was early 30s when I started to explore some of this, and it really resonated with me. Like, okay, there was something missing for me that I really craved, but didn't really know what it was. And then when I met my now wife, because of the depth of the love that was there, and I could cry thinking about it right now, which again, I would not have thought was a masculine thing to do prior to going on this journey, which I do. Like, we can feel deeply as well. There's no shame in that. There's power in that, right? When I met her, the depth of the love inspired this. It like brought forth this energy of, oh my God, like, what's my role in this dynamic? And we're not equals, and I don't want us to be equals. Like, and again, it sounds like a disclaimer, but I want her to be, thriving in her feminine essence. And how can I hold that space for her to do that?
Yeah.
Right. And it was just like, it was a perfect timing for me to really, like, I'd been noodling on these things, intellectually reading these books. Wineland, I did some of those courses, but it was like, cool. The universe was like, dude, awesome. And what are you going to do now? Like, here's you've got love at first sight. Like, how are you going to show up for her? And so I had an awesome opportunity to really do that in the relationship. And it was and still is like a very powerful and enriching, like on a soul level, journey and process. So, and to me, that's it. I mean, I think it's like, there's a lot to unpack there, but I think you can also distill it down very simply, which is, in my view, and again, this is what resonates for me, and I think a lot of other men and women. I mean, I'll go on an aside for a moment, but it's like, to me, this masculine, this divine masculine, the power, the essence, the energy of that it's like a grounded presence. It's a solid, you're connected to the earth. You're here. You're present. You're not. And for me, it was like, oh, like, you're not, nothing against meditation. I do it every day, but you're not floating off into some other realm. It's like, you're connected. Like, sit down on the earth and connect to the moment. Be here right now. To me, that's like a deeply masculine space to be, right? You're grounded. And anyway, what I was going to say is, I think it's really fascinating because we all, I believe a lot of us, when we're around that energy, women for sure, it's very nourishing for them, I think, when they're around, a grounded, solid man that they feel safe to just be all of the, and I say this with tremendous love and respect, crazy feminine energy, like the ocean. One minute they could cry, one minute they could laugh, which is awesome.
They're the creators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really nourishing for women to be exposed to that, and other men too. It's like, if a dude, uncle, friend, whoever walks in, it's like, that guy's solid, like, you're attracted to it. You want to sit down next to that guy. And so that's what I think it's, again, there's a lot to unpack, but I find it really fascinating because it actually is quite simple. It's like, there's a grounded, embodied presence that certainly that I aspire to, there are a lot of forces in our modern world working against that. we're distracted. We've got our phones. We're looking at everything 24/7. It's taking us out of that. But our true power is just like you're here holding space.
Yeah.
So
I had no idea how much you and I see the world similar, but it makes sense too. So it's what's great about it is that the forces of nature are also at play, and they're so powerful that no matter what we do, we're not going to get away from them. Natural selection built things in such a way where just from purely a physiological standpoint, that stuff's there. There's layers to male and female energy, right? But there's things that we just can't get away from.
Yeah.
I mean, there's statistics right now around men and how many of them kill themselves, and how because they're lacking like basic purpose. So they're lacking alignment with these things. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this subject. I feel like I wrote a thing a while back that I never did anything with. It was the baby with the bathwater, and it was about how men were originally kind of the creators of these machines. It's always this bigger, better, more kind of thing that we bring to the table. And then we jumped into the system we created around it. And then we got all excited about it. And then women were like, we want to be part of that too. And it was like, everybody was stoked. It was like, this makes sense. World War II did a lot of this, right? But then women jumped on board in the name of like good things like equality or, but what was left behind, I think women got completely screwed, is the fact that children, like babies, like we threw the baby out with the bathwater. Like nobody thought that we should probably stop and go, wait a minute, what, we stopped honoring. I think men fucked up because we stopped really honoring the power and what was happening with the children. Like, I think that's a huge layer of it. I think another layer too is that you got to go back kind of far, not in the scope of all of human existence, but you got to go back a little bit to get to the tribal side of things where we had communities of people raising children. Because I think this stay-at-home mom idea is also a weird, right? Like I've watched this with my wife. It took multiple children for her to have enough substance and different things to where there wasn't, she was getting depressed, man. Like it was like, there's got to be more meaning to this. And I think looking at it, it's like, well, if we were living in teepees and there was a different world here, there'd be lots of women, there'd be lots of children, there would be a community, right? So totally. Yeah, I think the true, you mentioned, what's all this for, going back to like way back when we're talking about power generation and like you have shit in the ocean and people and behavior. It's like, if we really want to try to make things better, we have to restore these basic fundamental things so that the humans that are being born and raised are good people. Yeah. And that they feel loved and safe. And I'm obsessed with this. And with more children being born and, my family getting bigger, it's like, it's the most important thing by such a long shot. Because we're going to die. Balthazar is going to live on, and your other children you have, and they're going to have children, and that's really where all the substance is. Like our big ideas, they're okay, but it's like they'll come and go. Yeah, but these humans, this is the possibility for everything. So, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree, because you touched on something I think is really fascinating. I've ruminated upon this a lot the last few months. Like, we live in this really beautiful community that feels like a village, right? We see people every day walking around. You're not trying to connect. We're all connecting all the time, which I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know you could live that way in, just in general, let alone in sort of the density of Southern California. So I feel very blessed. But as I've seen the child come into the world, it's like, that's kind of the one, there's so much support. We all support each other. The families get together, which is amazing. So you get some of that village kind of tribal dynamic, but then we're all still doing different things. And the mothers have babies and they're raising, the children, and, you see it. It's a lot, right? And God bless them. Like, they're doing an amazing job. I've nothing to be critical about, but you see that how powerful it would be for them to have the aunties and the grandmothers around them, and collectively kind of raising
the children, which is really, it's hard. I don't know if we can get there unless we all go to a commune or something, right? But the other thing that really got me going, you mentioned in the beginning about men and, suicide and all these things. One of the practical books that I love is John Gray has a bunch of work around this, but his book Beyond Mars and Venus, which is more just relationship dynamic, but it's specifically about just kind of the science of hormones. And like, this is what happens if you're, unpopular opinion, but if you're like a hard charging, boss babe woman in the workforce, here's what happens to your hormones. And it may not be optimal, and you may not be like in the childbearing, state.
Yeah.
Hormonally. And conversely for men, like, here's what happens if you talk about your feelings all day and your testosterone plummets. And he has really cool practical, things that suggestions, cave time, like men, when you come home from work, take an hour of cave time, like swim in the ocean, chop some wood, meditate, drive a car, fix something, use your hands. Don't talk to your wife about your workplace problems for an hour, which is, by the way, what I used to do for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize this is why I think there's a lot of men struggling, because nobody's really informing us of these practices that we can do to replenish ourselves, restore, kind of balance hormonally. There's some science there, and then show up for our families, right?
What you're saying, I mean, the cave time, the boss babe thing, like, well, first of all, like, make it clear, this world that men built, that, like, early on, right? Men built these machines and things, like, it's not that great. It's doing a lot of good stuff, but trust me when I say, like, coming to join this world and becoming that boss babe, like, think about what you're doing, because like, we may have seduced you over here, or it may have looked really good, but look at the product of that,
for sure.
What's actually happening, and I think it's not. I think women have gotten tricked, and then of course it's hurt our physiology, and then we're not even supposed to talk about this shit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you're even being like, well, I should, it's like, because we're white American males, and this is all just bad stuff for people to talk about because we're privileged and we just have no right. Meanwhile, highest suicide rate, like, men are killing each other. All prisons are filled with men. Right. It's a big problem. I think now it's becoming more of a mainstream conversation. Yeah. I think we saw the pendulum at this point, like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. And I think it's finally pretty rapidly coming back the other way. So no, I agree. And that's why, I always think it's just, there's a polarity, there's biology at play, right? I mean, that's just the way that it is. There's biology at play as it relates to, reproducing and carrying on, building family legacy, right? There's true biology at play, and there's a really powerful polarity between the masculine and feminine that I think it's like, it should be celebrated. Like, it shouldn't be controversial for men to be, like, really thinking about how to be more embodied and present and not I don't even like using these words, toxic masculinity. It's like, what does that even mean? It's just like a reaction to a problem that probably isn't the right solution, but okay. So, like, but there's something really powerful there about the embodied presence, the strong masculine energy, just like there's something amazing about the deeply feminine. Yeah. The deep feminine, the mother, the nurturing, the intuition. When we talk about intuition, it's like, fuck, what's more powerful than a woman's intuition, right? And it's like, why are we not celebrating those polarities instead of, I don't know, like, we're caught in this. Trying to be each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, when you were talking about men and women coming together and honoring each other's polarity. So if you just run this out like a little thought experiment, if that actually happens in the rawest way possible, it creates humans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, clearly male and female energy coming together does magical shit. The most miraculous thing we do is make humans. Not you don't even have to, it's life, it's creation of life. So clearly these energies coming together is good. So if we start there and say like, yeah, when they come together, life is created. Well, what is all of the stuff around that we should be looking at? And yeah, we really all have to get past this idea of like vilifying, wanting to get back to roles.
Totally.
It doesn't make somebody a misogynist.
Exactly.
It doesn't make someone privileged and unaware. It doesn't make a woman weak. I mean, holy shit, man. I think my wife, it's like she loves to raise our children. There's evolution to a woman, over time. Like the kids are getting older. She's looking at what else is there in all of this, right? But there's this period that's really important where there's nothing more valuable than that, taking the time to do that.
Yeah.
My children are the greatest joy in my life, and they spend most of their time with her. It's kind of obvious, like, what,
Yeah.
So, so you're a new father.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
It's the best. It's everything that, people told me when they said, oh, you can't describe it. It's the most profound experience of your entire life. All those things. I'm like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's weird how
true.
there's like two sides, right? You have like the no child side, and there's a whole way of interacting with the world. And then once you step over that line, there's no stepping back.
Right.
And two, it's like, and I hate to alienate people that don't have children, but it's like there's a totally different reality.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're talking to people and it's like they just don't get it. Like even the problem, everything. I mean, I can be kind of a dick sometimes because I'm just like, you don't even know what response, you know what I mean? All the things our parents said are like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I didn't know. I mean, again, I'm 44 now, so starting maybe a little bit later, but I didn't know, partially because I wasn't in the right circumstance and it wasn't there. The energy wasn't there. I was like, maybe I won't have kids. I don't know. I had those thoughts, through my 30s. And then of course, when I met her, everything changed. I'm like, of course, this is what we're doing. And, it's incredible. I mean, it's truly the most humbling, profound experience of my life by far, again, he's the guru.
Yeah.
He's the guru right now.
And
bringing the presence into my life for sure.
I love that you say that because I've always thought of it as like I always tell people when you have your first kid, it's going to be hypervigilance.
Yeah. It's
like you can't understand this idea that the brain never shuts off. When you're asleep, it's like you still have to be aware. It's like it's so exhausting when you're not used to that. Like a time where you can, in fact, you guys will notice this the first time you spend away from him, where you're like, it's like something you're supposed to do something.
Oh yeah,
because there's a switch that flips where it's like you got to be constantly there. But I like referring to it as like being present, like teaching you presence
for sure. Yeah.
So you guys, when I met you, well, I think April was pregnant, going up and down, walking up and down in the neighborhood and all of that, and it's like baby's coming, and then you told me you were going to do the home birth thing. What was why not hospital? Where's all that come from? Was that her? Was that you?
It was all her. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I didn't care. Again, I stand in awe of the feminine, of mothers, of all of it. Right. And it's like, this is your journey. Right. I mean, I felt that from the very beginning, and she was very clear. Like she wanted to do a home birth. She wanted to have the baby at home, not by herself, but with a midwife and a doula, help around her, but she was very clear. And I knew nothing. I mean, I have an older brother who's 5 years older. He started having kids when he was 20. So you can imagine his kids are adults now. And I was too young at the time to really engage with them. We had a pretty small nuclear family, not a lot of tribal dynamic going on. So I wasn't around babies. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be crazy. It's going to be pretty wild. Like I had no idea what to expect. I mean, even the most basic things about childbirth, I had no idea what to expect. But she was very clear, even a couple of years prior to, I think she had made the decision. And so, we sort of went into, let's get ready for this. And it was really cool. I mean, if you don't mind, I'll just go down that track. Yeah. I mean, so here I was sort of on this journey of exploring and getting more and more clear and working on it. And I still am of really, again, just harnessing my own masculine gifts. And again, I think ultimately that's just grounded presence and being present in the world, being present for her, despite whatever, I love the way David Data talks about it. It's like, your job isn't to fix. Stop hoping for, one of the chapters in his book is stop hoping for your woman to get easier. It's like, that's not your job.
Mm-hmm.
Just be present for her to do whatever the fuck she wants to do. If she's pissed off or angry or it's okay. Like, it doesn't need to make sense.
Right.
And I spent 20 years trying to convince every woman I was with that they weren't making sense.
What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so anyway, you tie all that into, okay, she's pregnant. There's a lot of emotion flowing. So it was an amazing opportunity to really like deepen this practice for me. Mm-hmm. And how can I just be present for her and all the emotion and everything that's coming up through this. And again, this isn't me. This is her journey. She's the powerhouse. She's the badass. No, nothing I say should distract from that. Like, this is something that she did. It's amazing, right? I was just trying to show up in the most loving, supportive way. So as we started going down this path, like, you have these meetings, the midwife comes, we had a great crew, her and her husband, she works with her husband, the midwife, and then we had a doula as well. So it was the three of them. We would meet on a regular basis, getting closer to the birth. And, we started exploring. For me, and I'm not saying I was like the architect of it, but I'll never forget this conversation I had with a good friend of mine, phenomenal human being. But I was talking to him, and he had just recently had a kid, and he's like, during the birth, you're going to be everything. You're going to be her support. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, maybe. But I didn't say anything out loud, but I just remember thinking, like, I'm not sure. Like, am I equipped to do that? Like, is there any amount of studying or learning or self-actualization that I can do to hold that space for her?
Wow.
Maybe not, right? Wow. And so her and I started talking about it. Fortunately, we have a relationship where it's like nothing's off limits, right? And we both were kind of like, yeah, this is interesting. Like, what does this look like when the baby actually comes? Where am I as the man, the husband? Where is she? What is the practical manifestation of this, right? And again, going back to like, I'll talk about it passionately because I went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, somebody has to be talking about this, and basically, like, almost nobody is. There's a French guy, I think he passed away recently. His name's Michael Odent. Kind of controversial dude. He's got some books, but he wrote about this a lot. He spoke to it a lot. I started doing research on what were tribal cultures doing when babies came into the world. And again, not that that's the end all be all. Like, they did a lot of dumb things. We do a lot of dumb things, like whatever. But I came to believe that and sorry, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but there's an article by a midwife that she showed me and I read, and it made me realize this is probably by far the most profound spiritual experience a woman will have. And like having like the masculine energy sort of intertwined with that might not be a good idea, right? So I sort of started coming from that place. Like, this is going to be a transformative, deeply spiritual experience for her. And like, she doesn't need me like standing in front of her, like counting breaths or something, right? That's why I think the moms end up getting pissed off, right? Sometimes, and like, get the hell out of here. Like, what are you doing? And so there's so many layers to it. Like, intimacy. I think about the work of Esther Perel. She talks a lot about like mating in captivity and all this stuff. It's like, we already have an uphill battle of, lifelong monogamy and maintaining the spark. And maybe it's not the best thing for the husband to just be right there and witness the birth. And so the more we explored that concept, what resonated deeply for us, and again, this guy Odent, Michael Odent, what he talks a lot about is things like, lighting, blue light exposure. I think this comes from him. Maybe it's another source. I don't know. I'm going to butcher some of it, but like everything affects the labor process. Mm-hmm. If she feels like she's being observed, what he saw anecdotally was if the woman felt like she was being observed, that would slow things down. So there's this crazy complex.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's like this crazy complex spiritual, chemical, hormonal thing happening, and we're like, you know, just we're in my opinion, at least for us, we're screwing it up, right? And so it was like, ultimately what I came to was like, okay, my role is just to protect the perimeter and make sure that she can go down. I mean, if you read some of the stuff, it's almost like a psychedelic experience. Like just everything changes in those, you know, few hours for the woman. Like she's gone, she's somewhere else, right? I mean, you could go deep down that on a spiritual level, but for me, it was like, okay, I'm here to protect the perimeter. And she's there with the aunties, the grandmothers, you know, the midwife, the doula, you know, that's what we had, friends, whatever, but other strong, powerful women who can relate to this experience.
Right.
And it's beautiful for them. Like they're, you know, on cloud nine because they've been through it. And whereas me, I mean, again, this is just me. Like, I don't care if I did a decade's worth of studying. Like, I'm not equipped for that. Even hormonally, I'm not equipped for that. Right. So that's kind of where we ended up. And
you know, what's crazy, I just have to say this, but you wouldn't even have been able to get close to that. And all my children were born in the hospital. Heather wanted to have the last one at home, but the baby was breached and it just wasn't going to happen. So, but you wouldn't even have been able to get close to that had you not opted to try to do it at home.
For sure. Yeah.
Like that's, yeah, because the whole system around it is exactly the opposite to everything you're describing.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
People being observed, right? Like drugs and bright lights.
Yeah.
And that's
totally. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the most eye-opening things for me is it's not like I was 100 feet away. I mean, I was just on the outside of the room, you know, doing my own thing, sort of, you know, just praying, meditating, kind of focusing on holding the space, whatever. And we had an agreement. It's like, if you need me to be there, I'll be there. This is all you. You know, you say my name, I'll be right next to you. And that was our agreement. But it was really cool and eye-opening because I realized, oh my God, like this could never happen in a hospital. She's there, it was quiet, it was dark. There were some candles, soft lighting, you know, strong women around her. And I was very happy for her that she was able to have that experience. And, you know, things can happen and I don't want to, I'm not a physician. I'm not trying to, you know, whatever. There's plenty of disclaimers to throw out there and things can happen. Everything has its risks, but it was an incredible experience for her.
Did you spend time worrying about the risks?
Not as much as I thought I would have.
Yeah.
Only because the care that we had, that she had, they were really good. And it was, I think they helped me realize that it's actually very safe, you know, and again, maybe unpopular opinions, whatever, but there's a lot that you can do if you have to do something.
Yeah.
And so they helped me get acquainted with the idea of like, you know, this can be very, very safe. Good. And so I was able to let go of that. But it was interesting because even the day of, it was, you know, phenomenal team. And again, I can't say anything. I'm so grateful for the support that she received from the group that we had. But there was also resistance because it was like, well, wait a minute. Matt's not in the room. It was like, and we talked to them months before. This is what we want to do. We're great. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. We're solid. There's love flowing like out the wazoo between us. We're solid. We feel really good. And that's not a surface level thing. It's a really deep, authentic.
It's not some hang up
yeah, exactly.
weird thing. It's
like,
these are things we're clear about.
We're not acting out some past trauma. Like this, we feel so strongly about and we're excited about it. And they were supportive. But the day of, interesting enough, and this doesn't highlight any inadequacy with them. They were incredible. I just think it speaks to the cultural inertia and energy around this. It was like, wait a minute, you got to come in the room. I'm like, no, we talked about this. Like, I'm good. We're good. If she asks for me, I'll be there. And so there was a little bit of tension there, which was just really fascinating because there's so much around this. And it's like, all men need to step up and they're weak. It's like, no, that's not what this is about.
It's not about us at all.
Yeah, it's like I could get stronger and like do a bunch of breath work and maybe not pass out. But that so what? You know, I believe that, you know, again, there's multiple, you know, kind of I think, really cool blessings, positive things that can come out of it. But most importantly, she can be free to have this incredible experience and not be worried about, even for a second, thinking about, is my man here? Is he seeing this? Is this happening? Weird things can happen, right? Sure. And so that really, and we will do it no differently every single other time.
Take me back to the day, like, were there moments where she was screaming and
oh yeah, super primal. Yeah, it was really primal, loud. Yeah, I mean, it was.
How did you feel? Were you emotional? Were you?
Oh, I was emotional. I cried probably the whole time, and just again, I was so happy for her that she was able to have that experience, and I know it was intense for her. I mean, if she were here, she would say, "Yeah, it was a lot. It was painful. It was intense."
Did you ever feel a pull to go in there to see if she was okay?
No, I mean, I knew that she was surrounded by. Even if I wanted to do something, it's like, what am I going to do? It's like she was surrounded by the people that she should have been surrounded by, in my opinion. That historically, for millions of years, this is probably what humans were doing. The mother was surrounded by other mothers and grandmothers who knew exactly what was going on and how to support her. And, again, not to go too deep into the esoteric and spiritual side of it, but it's a profoundly spiritual experience, and one that I think, we just don't have a place there. That's my view.
Yeah.
And in fact, it can dilute the profundity of the experience. And that's why I didn't want to happen. Because if we're in the room, it's like, we can't help it. Right. And he talks about this in one of the books. I think it's like adrenaline transfer or something. It's like, you're so connected to your wife. Like if you watch a movie, she cries, you cry, right? It's like, why am I crying? Because she's crying. So if I'm in the room and I told my buddy, I'm like, dude, there's no amount of breath work I could do that would help me to not get keyed up during this experience, right? No matter what.
Yeah.
And she's going to feel that. She's going to sense that. And that can affect her ability to really go into this experience, right? So
I love that you have figured out what so many men need to figure out, which is that it is not about you. That's where even men trying really hard to honor things can still make it all about them. It's like, it's I have to do this but it's like there are moments on both sides of the equation where it needs to be about the other person.
For sure.
And it's like, you're just here to be here.
Yeah.
In whatever way that is best for this person it's super important. I remember during that time, you guys, we wouldn't see you for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I had this weird feeling inside that what was going to happen was you were going to have the baby. You weren't going to tell anyone. You were just going to hide.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, it felt so much like the whole thing was being set up that, or that you guys were positioning everything in terms of your relationship to go full caveman style.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even know.
Right.
Is there a new baby in the neighborhood now? Yeah, he's been here for 3 days.
Right.
This was all done. So you two felt like you were in your own universe. It really did. I mean, I remember George saying, the girls had a conspiracy that the baby was born before, Balthazar or baby's here. And George, I was like, George, if you would be the only one who would know. I told him. I was like, you with your background, maybe Matt wanted you to know, doesn't want anyone else to know because he doesn't want anyone, popping over there.
Right.
There was a lot of this around how you were guarding.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. And it was that way. I was like, it was fun. We were talking out in the driveway. I was like, I should get him a sword or an axe or something to hang out.
Just like a torch, just to sit there. Yeah. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. You've already said a lot around that, but what sort of advice, and let's go back to the pregnancy, what sort of advice would you give to somebody whose significant other is pregnant and baby's on the way? What did you learn? What not just what you read in books, but the things that surprised you and, there's guys that are, what it's like. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
Right.
So when that guy is telling you what the fuck am I supposed to do based on you just coming out of this, what do you got?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I reflect back on my experience, all the things I just said, and I've thought about this a lot, like what would I do differently next time?
Mm-hmm.
And not to overly simplify it, but I've felt very strongly like what I would probably do differently is just lean into that even more. Exactly what you just said, like this, it felt like there was a sort of cave, this sacred space. It's like I would protect that even more. And again, I believe that's part of our masculine gift. That's what we can do, right? It's like I would just be present to hold the space for her to be whatever, all the way up until and through. As crazy as things might seem, or wild or irrational or whatever, maybe not. Maybe she's super chill. Like, who cares? Like, just let her be in this space, like kind of a portal. People refer to it as a portal. Like they enter this other, everything changes, her energy, mindset. I mean, everything starts changing. There's science behind it that I can't articulate properly. But for me, that's, I think, the most powerful takeaway is like, that's what we as men can do, really, really well, and is part of our masculine gift, is just, being super grounded and super present so that the feminine energy can express itself in whatever way it's meant to express itself. And so I would have spent a lot less time trying to figure things out, and I would have spent more time just being there, listening, whatever, sitting next to her, maybe touching her, do whatever I could to just hold that space. And particularly the day of, even though it went really well, I think I would have liked to even more powerfully protected the space, all the way down to the little things. Like, I mean, you've been through it more than I have, so I should be asking you these questions, but it's like, there's so much beauty, and, there's so much, there's a really sacred experience happening, and all the way down to who's around you. Are people wanting to like touch her belly? Mm-hmm. It's like, maybe we should create a container here where she's just like, and if she wants to come out of the cave, she can come out of the cave. Yeah. But if she doesn't, like, she's good. And I'm so anyway, I feel like long-winded way of saying that's probably when I ruminated, and maybe she would say something differently if she were here. I don't think so, but I would have leaned into that even more. Like, how do I protect this space so that she can have the most, the incredible depth, most profound experience available to her, right?
It's so good.
Because there's not much we can do, right?
No.
I mean, it's like,
no,
we're not. And I think it's really interesting. Like, there's another angle there of like, women who give birth, at home without anyone, and then the husband is supposed to sort of step in and learn all these things. And it's like, I don't, again, there's no amount of training, that would prepare us for that, in my view.
We're built for certain things, Matt. I'm so clear on this. Like, we were naturally selected for certain things. So, like, for example, when Heather was pregnant with Finn, I had this. It went on for a long time, but it was definitely like 1 week where I was obsessed with the neighbors, the front door, whether it was locked. It was like hyper vigilance. And I grew up in a house where we never locked the doors. Like there was no fear of anyone. And I turned into this and it was not logical. I mean, it was logical, it makes sense, but it was coming from someplace really deep. Like, I felt all of these very natural tendencies come online. And I didn't have, with Heather and Finn, it was not an easy period. I was being tested to the highest level. And I think there was lessons there for me that had to happen. And for example, like, I think a lot of guys take it really personally when women do get upset. What I came to believe, because Heather went, especially with Finn. So it was like our story was, one day I realized how old I would be if we had a child right at that point.
Mm-hmm,
I was down in the garage, went upstairs. I was like, let's have a baby.
Yeah.
She's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. 3 months later, she's pregnant, right? Then it's like, oh my gosh. Now she's looking at me and I can see it in her eyes. And I was in a different place in my life than you. But it was like this, I don't know if I can trust this person. Okay, so if I had to say what the more like the universal things that were, the more spiritual things that were going on, it was like, now it's time for me to find out what you're made of.
Yes, exactly.
And so then it was like, I'm going to do everything in my power to break you. And we joke about it now, but I mean, I was sleeping in the garage all the time. She threw a hammer at me. She ripped the cabinet door off the bathroom. We lived in a $900 a month apartment, dude. It was like not fancy, nothing, you know. Although I had, you know, some base stuff set up, I wasn't very secure financially. So I hadn't done all the stuff I needed to do. But what I did do is I survived her smashing against me and I learned to become a rock. Sucked at it for a long time, even after, but it was like, it was really clear. And I remember myself making a decision downstairs in the garage thinking, I'm stuck with this person and she's nothing like what I thought she was. I love her so much. I could say all this.
Right.
But that it was not an option for me to leave. I made my own commitment to that child in spite of no matter how I felt about her at that moment, there was no way I was leaving.
Sure.
So I went through my own transformational thing around caring for and protecting, but I was also being challenged. And it felt very, like in hindsight, it was almost like there was this spiritual thing going on where the two of us were demonstrating to each other like this weird dance that it was gonna be okay. And and it was, man. But and it is.
So interesting.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't live through an experience like that, but I know, I understand the feeling that you're talking about, you know, and totally makes sense. They're like, okay, do you got me or not? It's kind of like, that's the energy, right? Yeah.
I think women are so amazing. They're like, someone said to me one time, it's like, they're the most predictable creatures. It's like their cycles, you know, it's like they're actually so predictable that biologically everything happens almost the same way.
Right.
And yet we're in this like straight line and they're a circle. It's like,
exactly,
you know, depending on where.
Oh, totally. That's why I love John Gray's book, Beyond Mars and Venus. He literally has a chart. He's like, okay, this is what happens. Hormonal levels throughout the month. Here's what you should do. This is when you should have a date. This is when you should let her hang with her friends. And I'm like, dude, why didn't somebody show me this 25 years ago? You know?
I love that you bring that up because I was actually talking at your house the other day to some of the guys about making an app around this. And I feel like we should have an app for guys where you put in dates and then it auto reminds you.
Totally. Yeah.
You know, this is a time where you should shut your fucking mouth and just be about action.
Exactly.
Right. This is a time where tenderness means more than anything. And like, this is who you should be. We could learn so much and be so much happier, right? Also reminding ourselves, because there's also these amazing periods that are followed by some storms. And so like, if we knew that we were coming up on an amazing period and that it was going to have an expiration, but it was coming back, it's like that alone. Because typically what happens is a guy ends up in a storm and he's like, this is terrible. I didn't sign up for this, whatever bullshit guys say. They forget the amazing period, or they think the amazing period is going to somehow stick around, not thinking that this is like this circle. And we all could
totally.
I've tried to build spreadsheets around this.
Yeah, interesting.
Nerdy.
No, I've used the apps. For a while, I used the cycle tracking apps. So I had her account on my, and I would try to follow it that way. But yeah, there's something really brilliant there. And I love his book for this because, again, it's deeply practical. It's like, hey, this is, and he goes into the detail. Like if you know, the expectation, I mean, I'm going to butcher it, but you know, he calls it we time, like the time of the month. Of course, it's around, you know, ovulation or whatever, but the expectation of spending time together. So you want to plan the date before, and that will elevate her oxytocin levels. And then, you know, all these kind of really interesting, you know, parts of that sort of, you know, elevate her hormones in a way that's very positive, right?
And ours too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's the thing is like,
exactly.
if we do that right thing there, then we're going to feel better and stronger. And
Totally. Yeah.
there's so much there, man. And the other side too is like, if a woman understands a man and understands masculinity and nurtures it, it's sort of like a scary thing, I think, for women to do, because they feel like it could be giving up their power. But men are so damn loyal. And like, I'm lucky as hell, dude. I have this woman who, like, literally, I come home, she could read my mind.
Yeah.
She could see in my face, like, she knows, and she doesn't want to pick it apart. She's like, what are you thinking about? She's none of that. She knows where I'm at. And then if there's ever doubt, she's like, she looks at me with like completely like clear, and she just tells me that I've got it and it's good. And, and it's like, I instantly am recharged, and I just want to do everything in the world to take care of her and the children and make sure that she has to not worry about anything.
Yeah.
And it's this circle.
Yeah,
and she's just trying to care for me. And then I'm like, watch this. I'm going to give it back to you about 1,000 times over. And it's just this crazy circle. And the dangerous thing is thinking that she's doing something for you so you could just be you, but that's because people don't consider both sides. So it's like, I'm going to do this for you so you can be you. You do this for me so I can be me. And then the whole thing just becomes this flourishing situation.
Yeah. I totally agree. I could see that for sure. She's an amazing human being from what I've witnessed. So
she's great. She's crazy and beautiful. And it's, we both go through our stuff. We're both trying to figure things out, having moments of ebb and flow and what's life about and what are we trying to do? And, I don't know what the meaning of all this is. I think the meaning is to have meaning. That's all I got so far. What do you think? Based on everything, you've been on a journey.
Yeah, I don't know. I think of it from the perspective of we're here, right? It's like in some ways, it's like we won the lottery. We're here in the physical world, against all odds. Like, we exist on this planet 93 million miles from the sun. Like, you kidding me? And so we're here to live. And that's why, again, not to try to tie it back too, but this idea of like, because for me it resonates because I can get lost in the all the things, the meditation, all that stuff. It's like we're here on this physical world to experience this life, right? Physically experience it, the visceral, the good, the bad, all the things, right? So and go through a journey of self-actualization and evolution, right? I mean, I don't know, that's what makes sense to me. Like, we're here, don't shut out. Don't sit around for hours a day and close your eyes to the physical reality that's happening around you. Live it, be in it, try to be in awe and wonder if you can. But if it's terrible, do that too, and cry and grieve or whatever you got to do, and allow that to sort of move you along the path of evolution and self-actualization, being a better person, that's kind of how I think about it. But it's I don't know, it's a tough question.
I mean, that's a big one. It's like, what is the purpose of, you're certainly a searcher. You've spent your whole life looking for the next thing. You're highly driven. You're incredibly curious. You're thoughtful. You're humble. And it appears like you're just evolving through life, and you somehow realize that this is all just evolution, one step to the next. So
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I'm glad I wish more people would sit down and have longer conversations. I've lived by you for a long time, and I don't know how much. I'm sure people you always get an essence of what somebody's about,
for sure.
And unless you take the time to really listen to them. I had no idea that, I didn't know if you liked or hated your old life. I didn't know if you have a giant ego. I don't know.
Right.
You don't feel that way. Now you make more sense. So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll close this up. I have a couple questions for you, though.
Sure, yeah.
So, you're an avid reader.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Top 4 books that you'd recommend to somebody within the context of this podcast. So the things that we just talked about, top 4 books.
Okay.
They don't have to be in order, just the 4 that come out of your mind.
I would say for sure, without a doubt, Stephen Mitchell translation of the Dao De Jing. Again, life-changing. I carry that with me everywhere I go. For men and women, which I think there's some really insightful stuff in there, but Iron John to me is like a really powerful foundation for a lot of this stuff that we're talking about. David Hawkins' work for sure for me is there's a simplicity. It helps strip away a lot of the, I could certainly get lost in searching and looking for the answers, and I want to read every sacred text out there and all the things, but his work is like, just in my opinion, cuts through. So I would say probably, it's hard to jump in. He has like 12, 13 books that are all amazing.
He's Power versus Force.
Yeah, I would say Power versus Force. That's his first book. It's probably a good place to start.
Okay. All right, you got one more.
Yeah, and then I guess just because it's so near and dear to my heart, and this idea of thriving in a I don't know. I can't speak to it enough because I think it's so powerful. I mean, to your point just now about the way you feel when your wife builds you up. I mean, it's just like this dynamic of the masculine and feminine is so powerful. I feel like it just enriches our life in so many ways if we get it right. I mean, we're never going to get it perfectly right. We're going to always make mistakes. But I would say for sure The Way of the Superior Man by David Data, for the men out there is just, it's incredible.
So I have another question for you too, but these are great. And I'm certain people watching this are going to pick some of these up. I'm certainly going to read the Dao De Jing, the translation specifically that you're talking about. As we evolve and we move away from the evolutionary plane of everything, right? We're just society's like taken over, and there's all these cultural things that have happened. We're in this period as a species where we're going back now and we're looking at what worked before and we're bringing it back. And so it's our time to figure that stuff out. Like as we kind of figure out how to re-implement, these old ancestral knowledge into modern day life.
Yeah.
That's the key. It will never look like it used to look again. We're not going to wipe the slate clean.
Right.
It'll always be a new version, but I think how do we integrate these truths about being a human being, about being a man into the modern world in a way that best feeds our genetics and our souls, right? And I think I love that that's a subject that you're interested in your way, right? Talking about that. So this is so good.
Yeah.
Okay. What about, here's another one for you. So do's and don'ts.
Oh man.
All right. Do's and don'ts of being with a woman while she's pregnant. What are things that the top 3 things that you want to tell men that they should do, and the top 3 things that they should not do?
Wow. Okay.
You don't need to be
tough.
perfect. You don't need to be perfect. Yeah.
I would say, again, I'm not the. I've made many mistakes.
Can I give you a disclaimer?
Yeah, please do.
I'm not asking you this because I think you are the expert pro of all things related to this. I'm asking you this because you're fresh. You're very freshly in this, and you ponder, you think a lot, and so I know that you spent time thinking about what worked and what didn't work. So I'm asking you because it's new in your mind. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have to apologize or say, I don't know for sure. You can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What should a man do?
I would say just number one is, and I it's funny is April will bust my balls about this later because we literally had conversations. She's like, I don't feel like you're here. And I think that sense becomes even more heightened during this time for a woman. So it's be fully present. be fully present. I think, protecting, there's a protection, there's a protection of her experience. I don't know how to articulate that succinctly, but it's like, being not the guardian, but like as much as you can with the masculine gifts that you have, create a container, for her to thrive. Right.
I love that.
And there's a lot to that.
I think that's really awesome. That's a perk because keep going. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Yeah,
you get me excited.
That's all right.
Create a container because that could be a psychological container,
Yeah.
could be a physical container.
Exactly.
It's like, and it speaks of guardians. So be present, create a container. What else would you tell yourself? Hey, that's stuff you should do, or that stuff you did well.
Mm-hmm. I think, I don't know what the third one would be.
Okay.
Maybe let's go to the don'ts and we'll come back to the do's.
What should we not do?
I think don't try to fix anything within her or her experience. Don't try to fix or convince or anything. It's holding the space.
Don't force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's it doesn't have to be one-sided. I think the relationship can still be thriving and quite balanced, but I think there's not having any expectations. It's sort of like, this is a season, release all your, don't have expectations, release expectations of what, kind of like what you were talking about. You're not doing it because you want her to do something for you. You're just there because this is a profound experience that she may only have once or 4, maybe 5 times, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think all of this is kind of saying the same thing, is like, you're just creating the space for her to thrive without any attachment to some sort of reciprocation or anything. It'll be there, right? It'll probably be there in a really beautiful way, but you just got to let go of all of that. Right.
I love it, Matt. I'll tell you, want me to tell you what I learned based on what you said?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Be a man.
Yeah.
Don't try to be a woman.
Exactly.
Can we make those the third?
Yeah,
the third
exactly.
Because if I was to do this again, that would be the number one thing that you've been saying. It's like, dude, it's okay to just be you.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be like, well, man, is he being insensitive? He's not in the room. Like, it's okay. Be a man. Do what feels right.
Yeah.
And support her and create space and let her be a woman and be her most beautiful self and have these miracles.
Totally.
So,
yeah. No, it's so funny you say that because I forgot to speak to that. But that's one thing that's always there for me in this discussion, is like, there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens, depression, and it's like, well, maybe guys shouldn't be trying to be a mom. Like, don't try to be a mom.
Yeah.
Let her support her to thrive in that space, because she's the only one that can do it, you know, and then you come in and do the things that only you can do. Right. So yeah, it's good. That's awesome. I love it.
It's your stuff. I was just like, he's going to put this, he's got it. And it was like such a theme. So I had to put it in there.
Oh,
okay. So we got some great books. We got some great do's and don'ts for supporting a woman or being the counterpart to a woman when they're pregnant. And this has been a really cool talk. The time flew.
It's fun. Yeah. I'm shocked. We just went right through it.
Yeah. And it wasn't crazy.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you very much.
Likewise.
And I love living by you. And I'm excited for the future of our friendship and getting to know each other.
Same. No, I'm extremely grateful, honored to be here, humbled by it, by the conversation. And you've heard me say before, I stand in awe of you and your tribe and your family, and your wife is a powerhouse. Your kids are amazing. And it speaks to what you guys are both doing. It's incredible to see. That's one thing I think we need more of too, as men, like more praise, to each other.
I appreciate that.
And you guys are crushing it from what I see. You're an inspiration to many of us.
So far so good. It could still go south.
Not going to happen.
That's always the thing.